Hi Scorpio, how are you guys? Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Mary Tarot. We're going to do your reading, Scorpio. Your life has been repeating something. You have noticed it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not with the language to describe it, but somewhere inside you there is an awareness that certain things keep happening. Not identical events, not carbon copies, but echoes. Situations that carry the same emotional fingerprint despite wearing completely different clothing. Relationships that follow the same arc even though the people involved share nothing in common. Moments of arrival that dissolve into the same flavor of departure. Doors that open with the same shape of promise and close with the same weight of incompleteness. You have felt this repetition and you have drawn conclusions from it. You have concluded that this is simply your pattern. That this is what your life does. That the echoing is evidence of a loop you are trapped in, a karmic wheel you are destined to ride through the same stations over and over again. Each revolution carrying the cruel illusion of progress while delivering you back to the same familiar place of almost but not quite. You are wrong about the loop. And the message that came through today, the one I described as the most shocking I have encountered in 47 years of this work, is about to show you why. The echoes are not a loop, they are rehearsals. Every single one of them. Every relationship that almost worked but did not. Every opportunity that materialized and then dissolved. Every moment where you stood on the edge of the life you wanted and felt it pull away at the last second. None of those were final performances. They were dress rehearsals, practice runs. The universe working through draft after draft of a single event, refining the details, adjusting the timing, perfecting the conditions, so that when the final version was ready to be delivered, it would be flawless. Not perfect in the way that fantasy is perfect, where edges are smoothed and complications are erased. Perfect in the way that a key is perfect when it meets the lock it was cut for. Precise, specific, irrevocable. The final version is ready now. That is the message. After a lifetime of drafts, the definitive version of what the universe has been rehearsing through your patterns is about to be delivered. And everything you experienced as repetition, as frustration, as evidence that you were stuck, is about to be reframed as preparation so thorough that its scope will leave you breathless. Let me walk you through the rehearsals. Because seeing them clearly, understanding what each one was practicing for, is essential to recognizing the final version when it arrives. The first echo, the earliest rehearsal, was a relationship. It came early in your life. Early enough that you were still forming your understanding of what love was supposed to look and feel like. And it was intoxicating. It carried a charge that you had never experienced before, a sense of recognition, of homecoming, of finding something you did not know you were missing until it appeared. And for a time, it felt like the thing itself, the real thing, the final version. But it was not. It ended. Perhaps abruptly, perhaps through a slow erosion, but it ended. And the ending left a specific shape of wound. Not just the pain of loss. The pain of having touched something transcendent and then being told, through the mechanism of its departure, that it was not yours to keep. That relationship was the first draft. Not a mistake. Not a wrong turn. The universe's first attempt to deliver something to you that it had not yet finished creating. The connection you felt was real. The recognition was genuine. The sense that something extraordinary was within reach was accurate, but the person through whom it was delivered was not the final vessel. They were a placeholder. A rough sketch of a shape that the universe was still refining, and when the sketch was removed, the specific wound it left behind, that wound was not a punishment, it was a mold. It carved into you the exact shape of what you needed, so that when the final version arrived, you would recognize it not through hope or fantasy, but through the precise physical sensation of something fitting into a space that was made for it. The second echo came later and wore different clothing. It may have been professional rather than personal, an opportunity, a path that opened in front of you with the same intoxicating sense of rightness that the first relationship carried. You stepped onto it, you invested in it, you allowed yourself to believe that this was the direction your life was meant to take. And then it shifted. The path narrowed. The opportunity contracted. The promise that seemed so solid revealed itself to be provisional, contingent on conditions you could not meet or conditions that changed without your input. And you were left again with that specific flavor of almost the flavor of having tasted something extraordinary and having it pulled back before you could swallow. That was the second draft. The universe rehearsing through a different medium, in a different context, but practicing the same essential delivery. The opportunity was real. The direction was genuinely aligned with your purpose. But the vehicle was not ready. The specific combination of circumstances required for the opportunity to fully manifest had not yet been assembled. And rather than delivering an incomplete version, the universe withdrew the draft and continued working. I want you to notice something about these first two rehearsals, because the pattern within the pattern is where the message becomes explosive. Both echoes involved the same emotional sequence: discovery, recognition, investment, withdrawal. And in both cases, the withdrawal was not caused by anything you did wrong. You did not sabotage the relationship. You did not fail at the opportunity. The withdrawal happened because the draft was a draft, not because you were inadequate to receive what it was offering. And yet, the conclusion you drew was about yourself. Both times, you looked at the withdrawal and you internalized it as evidence of your own insufficiency. You told yourself, I was not enough for this. I am not the kind of person who gets to keep things like this. And that false conclusion, installed by one rehearsal and reinforced by every subsequent one, has been the heaviest thing you carry, heavier than the losses themselves. The belief that the pattern means something is wrong with you rather than something is being prepared for you, that belief is what this message has come to demolish. And let me tell you how deep that belief has gone, because naming its roots will help you feel them being pulled out as this reading progresses. The belief did not just affect how you interpreted past events, it shaped how you approached future ones. Every time something new appeared, something that carried the familiar shimmer of possibility, you met it already braced, already preparing for the withdrawal, already measuring the distance between the hope you were allowing yourself to feel and the ground you would hit when the thing was taken away. You developed a habit of emotional hedging, of never investing fully, of keeping one foot outside every room you entered so that when the exit became necessary, you would not have to scramble. And that hedging, which was an entirely rational response to the pattern as you understood it, also ensured that every subsequent draft was experienced at reduced intensity. You were protecting yourself from the full force of the withdrawal by never allowing yourself the full force of the investment. And while that strategy spared you the worst of the pain, it also prevented you from experiencing the drafts at the depth that would have revealed them for what they were. At full investment, you might have felt the difference between a draft and the real thing. The vibration of impermanence would have been detectable, but at reduced investment, everything felt the same. Provisional, tentative, equally likely to stay or leave. And so the belief deepened, and so the hedging intensified, and so the cycle continued, each revolution making it harder to imagine that the next one might be different. This reading is the interruption of that cycle, not through hope, through information, through the specific, detailed, energetically verified explanation of what the echoes actually were and what they were building toward. Hope without information is just another draft of belief. But information changes the architecture of understanding. And once the architecture changes, the hedging loses its foundation. The third echo is the one that damaged you most, and I approach it knowing that your body may react before your mind does. There was a moment, more recent than the first two, where something came so close to being the final version that even the universe seemed uncertain for a time whether it was ready. This one had everything. The recognition, the rightness, the sense of puzzle pieces clicking into place with an audible precision, and it lasted longer than the previous drafts, long enough for you to build a life around it, long enough for you to lower defenses that had been raised since the first echo, long enough for you to begin to believe with a tentative, hard-won, trembling kind of faith that the pattern was finally breaking, that this was the delivery, that the rehearsals were over, and then the withdrawal came, and it was devastating in proportion to how close this draft was to the final version. Because when something that is 90% right falls apart, the remaining 10% of wrongness feels like a betrayal of the cruelest kind. You gave yourself to it. You opened the place where the mold had been carved by every previous echo. You let something in. And when it was taken back, the mold was not just empty, it was deeper. It had been pressed further into you by the weight of what had briefly occupied it. I want to hold this moment with you because the energy insists it be honored, not rushed past. The pain of that third rehearsal was real. It was not a lesson or a teaching moment or a necessary step on a spiritual journey. It was pain, the genuine, bone-deep, soul-level pain of someone who trusted the universe and felt abandoned by it. And if you have been carrying anger alongside the pain, anger at whatever force keeps offering you something beautiful and then snatching it away, that anger is valid. It is the appropriate response of a person who has been asked to endure something that feels unreasonable and has been given no explanation for why, until now. Here at Mary Tarot, we do not offer comfortable half-truths. What we offer is the full picture, even when the full picture includes pain that deserves to be honored before it can be understood. The explanation is this: the third echo was not another draft in an endless series. It was the penultimate draft, the second to last version, the near final iteration that was so close to complete that its withdrawal was not a sign of distance from the destination but of proximity to it. When a sculptor is working on a masterpiece, the final adjustments are the smallest and the most precise. The difference between the penultimate version and the final version is not dramatic. It is a degree. A fraction, an adjustment so fine that only someone with the sculptor's eye could perceive it. The universe withdrew the third echo not because it was far from finished, but because it was almost finished, and almost is not the standard the final version was designed to meet. What remained to be adjusted after the third echo was not external. It was not about finding a better person or a more aligned opportunity or more favorable circumstances. The adjustment was internal, inside you. The third echo, in its closeness and in its painful withdrawal, accomplished something that no previous draft could have accomplished. It broke you open to a depth that matched the depth of what the final version requires. Not broke as in damaged, broke as in opened, the way the earth breaks open in spring to allow something new to push through. The way a shell breaks open when what is inside has grown too large to be contained. The pain of the third echo was the final expansion. the last widening of the space inside you that the final version needs in order to land. And now the space is ready. You are ready. Not in the way that self-help teaches readiness through the accumulation of healing and the mastery of your wounds. Ready in the way that a field is ready after the last frost. Not because the field did anything, because the season changed. The season has changed. Let me tell you what the final version looks like. Because after a lifetime of drafts, you deserve to know what all of it was for. The final version involves a person, not a concept, not a spiritual lesson, not an opportunity or a career shift or a financial windfall, though those things may accompany it. A person, a specific, individual, irreplaceable human being whose existence is the answer to every question your pattern has been asking. And this person is not a better version of the people in your previous drafts. They are a different category entirely. The previous drafts were not progressively improved attempts at delivering the same person. They were the universe learning, through iteration, what specific qualities the final vessel needed to carry in order to hold the thing it has been trying to deliver to you for your entire life. Each draft taught the universe something. The first taught it that you need recognition, the experience of being seen at a depth that most people do not reach. The second taught it that you need alignment with purpose, that love and meaning cannot be separated in your life without both suffering. The third taught it that you need endurance, someone whose presence does not withdraw when depth is reached, someone who does not buckle under the weight of the real you. And the final version, the person the universe has finished assembling from the lessons of every draft, carries all of it: recognition, alignment, endurance, not as separate qualities bolted together, as an integrated wholeness that exists naturally in who they are, requiring no effort to maintain because it is not a performance. It is their design. And there is something else this person carries that none of the drafts possessed, and it is the quality that makes the final version final. They carry an understanding of your pattern. Not because you told them about it, because they have their own. Their life has been producing its own echoes, its own rehearsals, its own series of almost but not quite deliveries that left the same mold-shaped wounds. And the fact that both of you carry matching molds, carved by parallel series of rehearsals that neither of you knew the other was enduring, is the universe's signature on the final draft. It is the proof of authenticity that distinguishes the real thing from every imitation that came before. When you meet this person, when the real meeting happens, the one where both of you are present without the hedging and the filters, you will discover that they understand the pattern without you having to explain it. Not because they are intuitive, though they may be, because they lived it. They know what it feels like to touch something transcendent and have it withdrawn. They know the specific loneliness of the mold, the hollowed out space that every departed draft leaves behind. And instead of being frightened by your wounds, they will recognize them because they have matching ones. And the moment two people discover that their wounds match, that their patterns were parallel, that the universe was rehearsing the same delivery through both of their lives simultaneously, is a moment of recognition so profound that it eliminates the question of whether this is real. You do not ask whether something is real when you are holding the evidence in your hands. This person is close. I feel them in the energy with a tangibility that tells me the distance between your current moment and the moment of delivery is short. Not metaphorically short, actually short. The kind of short where, looking back from the other side, you will be astonished at how near you were when this reading found you. And the reason you will be astonished is that right now, standing in the aftermath of the third echo, the final version feels impossibly far away. It feels like something that belongs to other people. Like something the universe delivers to those who were not foolish enough to believe in drafts that turned out to be temporary. But the very proximity of the delivery is what makes it invisible to you right now. You are looking at the horizon for something that is standing in front of you. If you have been following Mary Tarot, you know that this space does not deal in empty reassurance. When something is named here, it is named because the energy is showing it with a specificity that demands to be communicated. Let me tell you how you will know. How you will distinguish the final version from another rehearsal when it appears, because that is the fear, is it not? That is the specific, pointed, entirely understandable terror that lives inside the pattern you have been experiencing. How do I know this is not another draft? How do I trust again when trust has been the mechanism through which I was hurt every time? How do I open when opening has been followed, without exception, by the particular devastation of having what I opened for taken away? Here is how you will know. The final version will not feel like the drafts. I do not mean it will feel better, though it will. I mean it will feel fundamentally different in a way that your body recognizes before your mind can analyze it. The drafts carried excitement. They carried the rush of discovery and the thrill of possibility. And those feelings, electric and intoxicating as they were, always contained within them a thread of anxiety, a vibration of instability. A subtle, almost subliminal sense that you were holding something that could be taken from you at any moment. That thread was not your insecurity, it was the energetic signature of a draft. Of something that was temporary by design, even though it felt permanent in the moment. The final version will not carry that thread. When it arrives, the feeling in your body will not be excitement. It will be settling, a sensation of weight in the best possible sense. The feeling of something landing on solid ground, of a key entering a lock and turning with no resistance. There will be no vibration of instability because there will be nothing temporary about it. And the absence of that vibration, the unprecedented experience of holding something that does not feel like it could be taken away, will be so unfamiliar that your first instinct might be to distrust it. You might actually miss the anxiety. You might confuse the stability with a lack of passion because you have been conditioned to associate intensity with the very instability that was actually the hallmark of the drafts. But if you sit with the new feeling, if you let it settle and expand and take up residence in the spaces carved by every previous echo, you will understand this is what all of it was for. This is the shape the mold was making. This is what recognition feels like when it does not come with an expiration date. The other echoes in your life are also being resolved by this delivery, not just the relational ones. The professional pattern of almost opportunities is going to break. The financial pattern of just enough but never overflow is going to shift. The creative pattern of ideas that never fully materialize is going to give way to a period of tangible, visible, completed manifestation. Because all of the echoes were drafts of the same fundamental delivery. The delivery of a life that matches who you actually are. And when the final version lands in the relational dimension, its energy spreads outward into every other area because they were all connected, all rehearsing the same thing, all waiting for the same adjustment to be completed inside you before the performance could go live. I want to be specific about what this looks like in practical terms because the energy is offering details that are too precise to leave as generalities. In your professional life, the echo has been a pattern of being in the right place with the right skills at almost the right time. Opportunities that recognized your value but could not sustain that recognition. Roles that fit your capabilities but not your soul. Projects that started with fire and ended with embers. That pattern is breaking because the final version of your professional reality, like the final version of your relational reality, has been waiting for the same internal adjustment. And now that the adjustment is complete, the professional drafts are being replaced by a trajectory that does not contract after expanding, a path that does not narrow after opening. An alignment between what you do and who you are that is stable enough to build upon rather than another temporary structure that collapses under the weight of its own incompleteness. Financially, the echo has been even more obvious. The pattern of money arriving and then departing, of abundance appearing in one hand while slipping from the other, of never quite reaching the threshold where accumulation replaces survival. That pattern was not evidence of your relationship with money. It was the financial expression of the same rehearsal playing out in every other area, and its resolution is included in the delivery. Not as a separate gift, as an integrated component of a life that is finally operating from its final blueprint rather than from a series of provisional drafts. It is going live now. The rehearsals are over. The drafts have been retired. The pattern that defined the first 47 years of your life is ending, not through force of will or the application of healing techniques, but through the arrival of the thing it was always pointing toward. You cannot break a pattern by analyzing it. You can only break it by receiving the delivery that the pattern was practicing for. And the delivery is here. Let me tell you what the coming period holds in practical terms, because the energy wants this reading to land in your body, not just your mind. The person I described is going to enter your awareness in a way that you do not expect, not through the channels where you have been looking, not in the form you have been imagining. The universe learned from the drafts. It learned that your expectations, shaped by the previous echoes, are calibrated to recognize versions of what you have already experienced. And the final version does not look like what you have already experienced. It looks like what you have never experienced, which means it will arrive from a blind spot, from a direction you were not watching, through a door you did not know was there. And the surprise of its arrival is not accidental. It is by design. Because the universe knows that if you saw it coming, the pattern recognition system, trained by every previous echo, would activate, and you would apply the same filters, the same defenses, the same preemptive grief that has characterized your response to every draft that came before. The final version needs to bypass those filters. It needs to reach you before the system has time to categorize it as another rehearsal. So stay alert, not anxiously, softly, with the open attention of someone who knows that what they are looking for might not look like anything they have seen before. Pay attention to the things that do not match your pattern, the interactions that feel different rather than familiar, the people who do not trigger the usual recognition because they are not echoes of anything in your past. They are new, entirely, disruptively, beautifully new. And when the settling comes, when you feel that unprecedented sensation of something landing without the vibration of impermanence, do not reach for the old fear. Do not search for the thread of instability that was present in every draft. It is not there. Its absence is not a sign that something is missing. It is the proof that the rehearsals are finished and the final performance has begun. I want to say something else about the settling because this is perhaps the single most important piece of practical guidance in this entire reading. You have been trained by the drafts to equate intensity with value. The more intensely you felt something, the more real it seemed. The more your heart raced, the more convinced you were that what you were experiencing was significant. But intensity, as the pattern has taught you again and again, was never a reliable indicator of permanence. Every draft was intense, Every rehearsal carried the full emotional charge of something that felt like it mattered, and every one of them ended. The settling I am describing is not the absence of significance. It is the presence of a different kind of significance, one that does not need to announce itself through your nervous system, one that makes itself known through a quiet, deep, almost geological sense of rightness. As if something in the bedrock of your life has shifted and everything above it is now resting on a more solid foundation. You will also recognize the final version by what it does not require of you. Every draft required something. The first required your innocence. The second required your ambition. The third required your vulnerability. Each one extracted something from you in the process of its arrival and departure. The final version does not extract. It does not require you to sacrifice a part of yourself in order to experience it. It meets you as you are, with everything you carry, including the wounds from every previous draft, and it asks nothing to be removed, rearranged, or suppressed. The experience of being met by something that does not require you to diminish any part of yourself in order to fit into it is so unusual that it might take you time to trust it. That is fine. Trust built slowly on solid ground is worth more than trust that ignites instantly on unstable terrain. And the ground beneath this delivery is the most solid ground your life has ever known. 47 years of drafts. 47 years of echoes. Each one carrying the same promise in a different vessel. Each one getting closer to the final shape. And now, at the end of the longest creative process the universe has ever conducted on your behalf, the masterpiece is complete. Not almost complete, not one more revision away, complete, finished. Ready to be placed in the hands of the only person it was ever designed for, you. It was always designed for you. Every draft had your name on it. Every rehearsal was practicing your delivery. Every echo was the universe saying, not yet, not yet, not yet. Each time with tenderness rather than cruelty. Each time with the knowledge that what was being withheld was being perfected, until this moment when it finally says now. Thank you for being here with Mary Tarot. The echoes have gone silent. For the first time in your life, there is no repetition on the horizon. And what replaces them is not another draft, not another rehearsal, not another almost. It is the thing itself, arriving at last in its final and permanent and long-awaited form. And it has your name on it. It always did.